So let's welcome Chris. Thank you.
I didn't know he had jokes. Really nice, thank you. Well, this is cozy, isn't it? This is really nice. It's better than that big main stage. This is like a lot more cozy. We've now got some people on the front row. So like I said before, these are the ones that get in free beer. I'm calling you out because you called me out. So let's start with something I think we can probably all agree on in the room. It doesn't matter what industry that you're in. It doesn't matter what role you play in your organization. Success isn't about delivering more outputs. It's about creating real outcomes. Outcomes for your customers, most of the time, will equal impact for your business, however that is measured, whether that is revenue or cost saving or engaging new customers or acquiring new customers or engaging existing customers. Creating outcomes for your customers will most likely generate business impact. That shift from measuring what we deliver to what we achieve is at the heart of it why product thinking and product operating models are essential to the success of your organization. The thing is that the majority of organizations are not designed to operate in this way. Many traditional organizations, when you think about logistics, manufacturing, retail, automotive, finance, healthcare, the non-digital native organizations are built on what we call the project model, defined by hard deadlines, rigid deliverables, and a focus, unfortunately, as Wafay just pointed out, velocity-based output. And while that may have been successful in the past and helped these organizations to grow, it's going to hold us back today and certainly not going to allow us to be successful in the future. So this is the shift that we need to make from project and project thinking and project models to product and product thinking and product operating models. From something that has a finish line to something that has an ongoing purpose, to something that we deliver once and maybe quickly, to delivering value continuously. This shift is what will turn uncertainty into opportunities. It's how you build products that customers really love. It's how you innovate in a market that is getting increasingly harder to differentiate yourself. The shift is not an option for those who want to be leaders. Let's take a quick look at what that shift actually looks like in practice, the things that you might hear in your organization. You want to hear less of, we've shipped new features and met our deadline, the things that Wafay just pointed out, and shift towards our customers are now able to achieve something new, something different. We've understood and found customer value. We have found outcomes for them. You want to hear your team saying less, we never actually have any data, so we're just going to have to guess again this time. And I'm sure many of them in the room have done this. And shift towards, we're making evidence-based decisions from the data that we have. If anyone was in the workshop with Bushra yesterday, I'm sure she talked a lot about metrics and data and evidence-based decision-making. And finally, we want to hear less of our leaders having to say, we're going to have to build this because the sales director has told us we have to, and more, we know what customers value, so let's go ahead and build things for them. So which of these two models do you want to live in? Which is the one that you live in today, and which do you want to live in tomorrow? What talk is really any good without a stat from Deloitte, right? So customer-focused organizations are generally 60% more profitable. And in this hard economic time, that is going to become more and more important, the relentless focus on what it is that customers want. You do not get that from project model thinking, you get that from product operating model thinking. And the stat that may scare you a little bit more is that 50% of organizations say that in the next 5 years, 80% of their work will be done using product thinking, product operating models. 50%. So they're all of your competitors. All of your competitors are going to be starting to build things that customers love. They're going to grow in the market, and they're going to become more profitable, maybe more so than you. So which of these two is it that you want to be? Is it project thinking or is it product thinking? Is it project operating models? Is it product operating models? Now, the choice should seem relatively easy given what I've just said. If you want to be more profitable, if you want to understand customer value and outcomes and drive business impact. It's interesting because I have a friend that I just met yesterday, sat here in the front row, who's going to be speaking later, and he said he's already pissed off about all the product thinking and product operating model stuff. He's tried it already, it didn't work. It was hard to connect the things on the ground to like the strategic aim of product thinking principles, and he's read the books, and it just didn't quite work. Because the thing is that making this shift is really, really hard. It's not an easy thing. You can't just say, oh, we want to be a product thinking organization. You have to go ahead and do something about that. There are actions that you have to take. And it does require leadership to have the vision, of course, but it requires the people on the ground to make things happen, to make a difference. And it's really hard for a few different reasons. It's hard because we are generally encouraged to do this type of work. How many times have you heard, let's be more outcome focused? How many times have you heard, we've got to have a product thinking mindset on this one? We are encouraged to do this type of work. There's a whole row of speakers here that encourage us to do this. There are books, conferences, podcasts. ChatGPT will also encourage you, if you ask it the right questions, to work in a product thinking mindset with a product operating model. But there is a lack of tangible, actionable guidance that will show you how to do this within your organization's context. The second thing, and I think it's a point you're going to raise later, Lisa, is the economy is really, really tough right now. We have huge tech layoffs. We've got global wars that are changing the face of the world. We have geopolitical instability. We've got the AI revolution. All of these things and more is meaning that we have to do way more with way less people, way less budget, way less leeway for experimenting and having safe to fail experiments. And finally, it's really hard, as I touched on before, that because most organizations are built for certainty. The manufacturing process of traditional organizations, we need to deliver X number of things. We will make Y amount of money based on the things that we deliver. They are built for certainty, which makes them very, very reactive in a very changing marketplace, rather than responsive to change, because they've already set their plans in place. And we're not alone in this concept, right? It's hard, and there are more stats to back this up. Only 2% of organizations from a study done just 2 years ago, updated last year, and not with much change, only 2% have actually operationalized product operating models at scale. So not just in a small digital native startup organization, in larger organizations, more traditional ones. Of 3,000 organizations that were surveyed, and by the way, it was self-identification. There was questions asked about how you set up your organization. And a lot of humans like to think slightly more positively, maybe, than the questions would allow. So this 2% might not even be real. But only 2% have actually operationalized a product operating model at scale. And while there is another 98% that haven't, there are a bunch of those that are really trying to make it happen. And this is where the stat comes from, that 50% of organizations think 80% of their work will come from a product thinking mindset. Of that bunch of people, only 97% of them have faced significant implementation challenges, like yourself. Challenges with leadership, technology, funding, having the right people, capabilities, and the time and space to make these things happen. It's really, really hard to do this, to make this shift. And I know it's really hard because a number of years ago when I joined Farfetch, which is a Portuguese-based luxury fashion platform, I joined in my first operationally focused role. I was working with the VP of product there, Angela, and the VP of design, Justin. Great people, great product thinking mindsets. And they wanted to shift Farfetch from being very project-led, delivery-led, to being more outcome-focused, being more product thinking. And they had the vision. We want to be a product operating company. There's always a higher level vision, right? And the high level vision was to grow the organization, to grow the company, to scale the business, to make more money. And they had the principles, all well-intentioned. We want to be outcome-focused, value-driven, et cetera, et cetera. And I came in with all the ideas, all the tactical changes, all the actions that we can put into the organization that was going to get us there. Loads of different things for all these different teams. It's a change that was going to affect about 1,000 people. At the time, Farfetch had 10,000 people in the organization. The part that I was working was around 1,000 people, product design, engineering, research, data, et cetera. And I guess not too surprisingly now, but at the time, surprising, it completely bombed. It took 3 or 4 times longer than we predicted. To be honest, by the end of the first year, we were nowhere near more product-led than we had been when we'd started, even with some of the more basic things sort of being in place. And that was really, really hard. And it's the realization that this shift is a challenge because you need so many different elements in place. It's not just about the vision and going, okay, we have some actions to take. There is so much more to that. So today I'm going to introduce you to the framework that I use, that I started designing when I made that massive fail, that I've been designing since, that makes sure that I'm not, and when I'm working with my clients, they are not in this 97% of significant challenge, and they become part of that 2% of product thinking organizations. So we start with connecting the strategic intent of the organization, often let's make way more money. There are only 5 things really that businesses care about, right? It's making money, reducing costs, so saving money, acquiring new customers. I can't count to 5 on my hands, this is really embarrassing. Acquiring new customers, engaging existing customers, and quite often shareholder or investment value and the increasing of that, right? So as long as you can connect the work you're doing to one of those, you're in a good place. The strategic intent of the organization also needs to connect to these things. We want to make more money, we want to grow our business, we want to be a product organization, we have to have a product operating model, or whatever you want to call it. We need to connect the strategic intent to the tactical change that we're making on the ground. And the thing is that most people are thinking what should be done. We should be a product organization. We should be growing in the market, and we think this is the way to do it. And very few are actually thinking about what can be done. What is the actions that we can take today in our context that will shift us somewhat to being a more product thinking organization? So when we look at this and the connection of the strategic intent to the tactical change, we have the vision for the organization, we have all the changes that we want to make. But you'll see here there is a pretty big gap between those two things. And anyone that's tried to do this work, like Hader has, like I did at Farfetch, that gap is what causes the majority of the issues, because you want to be able to show progress towards a higher aim, but you don't know how to connect them particularly. You want to do things that are contextual and show progress, but you don't know how to connect them. And there is this missing link in the middle that allows people to focus on the changes that they're making and allows people to show progress towards that aim. And in the middle is organizational capabilities. Not individual capabilities, not team capabilities, but the capability of your organization to work in this way, to have a product operating model, to be product thinking, to be product-led. You have to look broadly across the organization and understand all the different elements that make up, in your context, what is going to shift you towards the product operating model. And this kind of like concept shows up, this isn't a product concept, right? This isn't a work business concept. This concept shows up in real life as well. So a number of years ago, like probably when I was a teenager, so it feels like a very long time ago now, I think like many teenagers, you have maybe a bit of a vision. I want to lose a bit of weight. I want to gain a bit of muscle. I want to maybe get a girlfriend. There's a vision to this, right? And I know, like many of us, we go and join the gym. And I know there's actions to take in the gym. So what, walk on the treadmill 10 minutes. Maybe cycle 15 minutes because it feels like you're sitting down anyway. Maybe push some weights, feel good. So like 45 minutes in, your actions are all done. You come out of the gym, you go twice a week, you're feeling great. Did I achieve that vision back then? Absolutely not. Because I wasn't able to connect anything I was doing to the vision. I thought I knew some things I could do, but I didn't know what actually could be done. Those capabilities in there are like understanding your different muscle groups, understanding which parts of your body you should work on to get the aim that you're looking for. And just like muscles, the capabilities have to be worked upon. They have to be built. You have to practice and focus on each of these different areas. So I'm going to show you a really big, scary screen because there's loads of words on there. These are all the capabilities that I think an organization needs to be a product company. They are all connected to a strategic intent, to the principles of being strategically aligned, value-driven, outcome-focused, and financially impactful. These are the principles that I believe the ones we have to live by to become a product organization. And these are all the capabilities where you have to build the muscle. Right? There's a lot here, and that's why the shift is really hard to make. You can't just put actions in place. You have to build the muscle. And of course, that's all attached to behaviors change and behavior, tactical changes that change our behaviors and our mindsets in how to do this. I know you're all taking photographs. I'm going to send this all off to you anyway, so you can have this and you can use it. The interesting thing with this is when you come to, and I'm going to take you back to my time at Farfetch, we had the strategic intent. Angela and Justin, VP of Product and Design, they wanted to be more outcome focused as an organization. And we'd already put stuff in place. I have a thing called starting conditions. It's just a simple 5 questions. We start at the beginning of any initiative. Like, what is the customer problem? What we're going to do to try and solve it? What behavior change are we going to see to show that it's solved? Very, very basic tactical changes. Introduced it to like 15 product teams. No one did anything about it. No one knew what to do with it. They were like, yeah, these are good questions. We got the questions. How do we actually implement this? What do we do? Okay, kind of get it. But what does it ladder up to? Well, it's going to make us more outcome focused. How is 5 questions going to do that? It's very, very hard to convince anyone to pick up these things and run with them when they don't know how it connects, until we realized, for us, it was about iterative learning. And there was about another 5 or 6 things we were putting into place that combined showed progress towards iterative learning as an organizational level capability broadly across the organization that laddered up to us being more outcome focused. The moment that we realized that and started talking to people in this way, the team started to pick up this action, this tactical change, and the behaviors started to change. So 6, 9 months later, you could actually see that we're talking in a different way. We're talking about customer outcomes, becoming more outcome focused because we believe that is what we need to do to achieve being a product company and therefore to make more money and grow in the market. So the first part is connecting the strategic intent to the tactical change. The second part of this is, what can leadership do, mid-level leadership, product team leadership, like heads of product, directors of product, what can they actually do to enable the change to happen? And this is about balancing the resources that you have with the incentives that you're willing to give. Because no one's going to do anything when it comes to organizational evolution. No one's going to put their mind and their focus onto it if you do not incentivize them. So like, resources without incentives creates resistance, right? You have everything in place and you're ready to go, but no one's going to do anything because you've not told them what they're going to get out of it. Just having a job is not an incentive. It's like a life. Incentives without resources just creates resentment. About 5 years ago, when I first met my partner, we went on a, I realize, and I apologize, all my analogies are about like fitness and stuff, and I only realized that later. I went on a hiking challenge, right? It's insane to think about it now. I was actually living in Dusseldorf at the time, working on a client, and we had decided to go on a hiking challenge in Yorkshire, which is where I'm originally from, called the 3 Peaks Challenge. It's essentially climbing 3 mountains, and you have to do it in 12 hours. So, of course, I was quite incentivized. Did someone just say why? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so the reason why, and the incentive I had. Firstly, the incentive of charitable donations, right? We're doing it for charity. I've managed somehow to get a load of people to donate to me for doing this crazy thing. So I was slightly incentivized by that. And I was also told if you do it within like a 10-hour period, there's a pub at the end, and there would be free beer. So there is an incentive to do this hiking challenge and to do it within like a 12 to 10-hour period. Now, the thing I didn't have was anything else. I had the wrong boots. I had no waterproof gear. I mean, north of England, it's probably going to be rainy or at least misty. I didn't have the right nutritional food. I just had cheese sandwiches. I didn't have enough water. I had no painkillers. Whatever that was, I agree with it. So I didn't have any of the resources and no incentives. My girlfriend, of course, had all the resources that she needed. She'd been out and bought the boots and the walking sticks and had good nutritional ideas and painkillers. She stormed off ahead. She did it within like 7 hours. Got to the pub, free beer. This is not a joke. I got in at 11:58 hours. And I was crying at the end of it. I think you can probably tell that I'm slightly still resentful of it, even though it was for a good cause. And this is a thing that leadership actually have to do, right? They have to be able to balance out the resources that they have, the resources in terms of time, physical and mental time, space, both physical often to do this kind of work, and mental space, taking things off people's tables so they can do this. The right types of people, seniority level is one of them, of course, but capability is another, and the desire for growth. Again, we're taking people away from thinking about product delivery and onto org evolution. And the budget, both direct and indirect. Firstly, can we use the budget for things like training or incentives? But indirect budget is also, can we take people away from product delivery? Can we risk slowing down on product delivery because we believe this to be really important? And that has to be balanced out with incentives, reward, financial reward. Might I get a salary increase, a role change, more bonus, learning and development budget? Recognition. Who in the organization is going to know I'm doing this kind of work? It's important for me to be seen as a leader in the org, but maybe internally and externally. And growth. What kind of growth opportunities can we have? Am I on 33 minutes? Someone? Wow, speed up. Okay, so we have to balance out both readiness and motivation. So this is essentially the part where we know the strategic and intent tactical change. We've been able to focus on organizational capabilities. We can now balance out the resources and the incentives we have to enable the change to happen. But there's a final part of that, and that's commitment to the actual change. We have to cultivate commitment because short-term commitment is dictated, and we've all been in that place where our directors, our managers have said, go ahead and do this thing. We need you to do it by next week. And we've all been in that place where long-term commitment is something that's built up with the team. They can focus on the behaviors that need to be changed. Long-term commitment has to be cultivated. So instead of having these top-down directives that we all kind of know don't work, they will work in the short term. You will get some immediate impact, but it's not for long-lasting organizational change. You cannot just pass down the ball from leadership to the product team and say, you cannot say, go and focus on iterative learning, because they will, and they'll improve in their one team. Very narrow focus. You also can't go, we want to be a product company, we want to be outcome focused, go and figure it out, because you will be part of multiple ways of working meetings that never really go anywhere, never really change anything. So instead, I'm going to have to describe this to you, aren't I? I think it's not quite as visible. Instead, you have to create this working group of cross-functional people. So product, design, data, engineering, finance, marketing. You have to bring that group together, take them away from product delivery. You have to be cross-functional, so different roles, cross seniority level in some cases, and also cross-team. And this is the way that you have broader impact. And instead of saying, go and fix iterative learning or go and think about becoming outcome focused, which is much too high, you have to come in and go, we want you to look at iterative learning across the whole organization. This is where the growth is going to come in. This is where the recognition is going to come in, because they're looking broadly across the organization to change and to evolve the organization and shift behaviors from project to product rather than thinking just about their one team and their very narrow focus. So essentially, this is the product shift framework, so connecting strategic intent to tactical change. This is where your senior leadership are going to come in, but with a mix of your team leadership as well. Balance the resources and incentives so you don't create resentment and you're ready to go with the change. And commit to change by cultivating it, by giving people the power, often known as empowered, both autonomous and aligned to a strategic aim, to go and solve these problems across the organization by changing behaviors. You'll be pleased to know, I'm sure, that there is a book being written about this by myself and my co-authors, Ezra and Hugo. that will explain all those principles, all the different capabilities, all the behaviors, and the activities to make this actionable in your organization's context. No one can come along and don't believe them if they say, I have a blueprint for a product operating model, it's going to work for you. It isn't. You have to do the hard work, and it has to be actionable and contextual to your organization. This book will help you to do that. You can go to maketheproductshift.com or handily scan the QR code, and we will send you all this information. And also, I have a canvas that I will share to you as well, which will help you to commit to that change. My name is Chris Compston. I'm a founder and consultant of my own business, where I focus on helping organizations and leaders to build great product operating models so that they can build great products. You can find me on LinkedIn if you want to chat. I'll get you a free beer because you listen so politely. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Sorry.
Thank you. Perfect. No worries. I think we will take a couple of questions, and I have also one question to you after the ask.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Thanks for the works. Thanks for the talk. So I have a question. I think your talk was built on an assumption that you work in an organization where the leadership believes in the outcome-based paradigm. And then what do we do? How do we engineer that? But
yes, the answer is yes. Next question.
Yeah, I worked in a, let's put it this way. I worked in more than 2 companies where it's actually like half the company from bottom up believes in that and wants to make the change, but the leadership is not fully on board. So what do you do? Like, is this curable? Is this fixable? And in particular, have you seen any examples of moving towards outcome-based roadmaps where you can basically, instead of saying next quarter we ship the thingy that signs up users this way, next quarter we will try to increase signups by 10%?
So a couple of questions in there. Firstly, when I say the word organization, I generally mean product organization. Right? Because a product organization can actually shift to working in this way without the direct sign-off by the CEO, the exec board, other functions or other organizations within that business. They can do this kind of work. And even when it requires a changing funding model and team structures, usually in these types of organizations that are a little larger, there should be someone at the top of that who is the budget holder, can make those decisions and make that change. Convincing them from the ground up, you have to be pretty convincing. There's definitely like another talk or maybe even another book that says, how do I convince leadership? Convince leadership is like the hardest thing. And it's like, it's a mixture of, I suppose actually it's just pure art, right? Not all leaders are going to get on board with this, and that's going to be the challenge. You can, of course, make these shifts within your organization, within your teams, and start to move things forward. And if you can showcase to them the benefit of working in this way by partnering with them, collaborating with them, go, okay, we've understood that we want to work maybe output driven, but we're going to, a couple of things we're going to change slightly. The next initiative, we're going to go from an outcome-based thing. Will you let us experiment with this? If you can show the value without really convincing them that anything is going to change, as soon as you go to them and go, this quarter we changed our working processes and we've made more money, they're going to go, okay, how do we do this with every team? How do we spread this kind of concepts? But it is a challenge. It is really hard to do. That's why doing this is very, very hard. You do need to have the strategic intent and the vision of at least the people who are leading the product organization. You had another question, actually, but I've forgotten what that was now.
Any success stories?
Yes. I don't know if I subscribe 100% to having to have outcome-based roadmaps, as long as there's a good and deep understanding of what the outcome is. Of course, and as you just pointed to, you need to have output in whatever it is you're building to achieve outcome. I think the starting point is connecting outputs to outcome. That's going to be like the first thing that you do. When I worked at Reward Gateway, I didn't get to tell that story because I spent too long talking about how I was annoyed about hiking. When I worked at Reward Gateway, it's an employee benefits. We were looking to change from output to outcome by working very closely with what we call business partners. So in each of the locations, like global locations that they had an MD, and we were working very closely with them to shift their mindset to become more outcome. So when we go to them and say, we are going to build things for your customers, and they go, oh, what, these big B2B customers over here? Yes, they're the ones, and we're going to achieve these things for them. You could probably ask to increase, the price of the product next year because of it. That's now convincing them we can go away and do the kind of work. But it is like really hard. Like I said, there's only 2% of organizations that are like non-digital natives that are doing this type of thing. So finding very, very direct examples is hard. But that's why I'm there, right? I'm a consultant to help them to do it. Thank you for your question. No questions from you.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it very much. My manager not in the room, so I will just shoot the question. We have external commitments till the end of the next year to deliver like a list of things. So really all of our product teams are committed to this. At the same time, we are softly encouraged by our CPO to go into this product mindset, product drivenness, and so on. Product strategy, product discovery, OKRs, like all of this. I don't see a way for this at the moment currently, like because of all of these delivery commitments. And do you maybe have an advice for us? Like, would you advise maybe to drop all of these product tries and just to focus on the delivery? And like once we are there with all these commitments done, then we can try the other thing. Do you see a way like how to combine maybe?
Yeah, I wouldn't advocate for that, because what's going to happen probably in the next couple of months is they're going to come to you and say, okay, you need to tell us what end of 26, 27 looks like from a deliverables perspective. So you can't like ignore this type of work. It has to kind of start as, I suppose, as quickly as you can. One of the principles that I have, so if you sign up, I'll send it to you, is financially impactful, right? As an organization, we have to be financially impactful. We need to be profitable. We need a good return on investment. And one of the org capabilities that you need is a funding model that allows you to almost like build and run, right? So like, we talk a lot about the kind of bet model. What bets can we place? What experiments we can run? Honestly, I wouldn't use any of that language with anybody outside of product, because they're just going to freak out. They don't like, who likes betting and risking things like in that way? So you need a good funding model that allows you to do that type of work. The funding model comes from the budget holder. So if that is I think you said CPO or whoever the top product leader is, they're the ones that have to own the budget and decide how to use that budget. And that's where that funding model comes from. Funding model comes from understanding like how you generate value and value for customers and business impact. So if you're like working in a team, or even like in some cases a director of product, you're not going to be able to make that shift happen without the funding model that the CPO is agreeing to, believes in, and is helping you to make happen as well. Their role is to go to the rest of the organization, the very senior leader, the CEO, the exec board, whoever it might be, and convince them that being a bit more outcome focused is going to drive the business impact that they're looking for. Like I said at the beginning, like what you've described is very much, we know if we build these 10 things over the course of a year, we'll make this amount of money. I think we all know that that's not true. We might make more. We might make less, because we actually don't know, because you cannot link the things you build directly to the revenue you're expecting to drive, because we're not in manufacturing anymore. So your leader in this space, the CPO, has to go to that exec board, that CEO, and convince them that convince leadership, there you go, convince them that this is a better way to work, because they're going to drive more impact from it.
Thank you.
Oh, and all the tips and things like, what can you do today? What I would probably suggest is think about all those org capabilities and think about the ones that you can shift, or you and the leadership group can start to shift. And the ones that, when I was answering this question, the ones that you can point to and go, if we change this slightly, like, can we do it in the background, but then show the value afterwards? Can we experiment over here without anyone really noticing, and then show them that it worked? Show, don't tell, show, don't ask.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for the question.
So maybe I take one thing, Chris, not as a moderator now, as a product leader in Delivery Hero, and just to emphasize on what you were saying, right? You were saying you need to convince the leaders, right? What I noticed that if a PM come trying to convince a leader and he's not an expert in his product, immediately I stop talking. I like, it doesn't make sense, right? When I say expert here, I mean you understand the business and you connect the dots, all the metrics. When a PM come and say, okay, I need to be outcome based and just explaining the metric of his product, okay, connect the dots. Usually they fail, then we stop. Then okay, let's go back to the deliverables.
Mm.
This is what usually I've been facing. Maybe you have faced something similar, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just an ongoing conversation, right? An ongoing partnership and the collaboration. This doesn't happen in a vacuum. Oh, yes, I am talking about the product organization here, but you still have to work with the different groups of people across the whole company, across the whole business, that can help you to do this kind of work. And it's not something that's going to immediately switch and be, okay, now we're outcome focused. We know how everything ladders up. The people in the organization, going back to like building those capabilities and building those muscles and practicing, you need to be, one of the capabilities I talk about is psychological safety, right? And part of that is safe to fail experimentation. What you've described there is we tried it and it didn't work, but that wasn't a safe space to do it. Maybe something else was a safer place, a safer position that you could be in to kind of experiment in that way and then show that value. So again, everything here is like a buildup of, you know, if you look at all those capabilities and go, we are excelling at every single one, well, then you're not excelling at all. Because you have to keep on improving. I think I was chatting to someone last night about this as well. Is in fact, we're both hobbyists. We love doing hobbies, and with hobbies, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm doing pretty good actually, and then there's a bit of a plateau. But that plateau is just showing you that you are not, to use another sport analogy, he was a basketball player, right? And if he went up against like LeBron James, he's not very good. If he goes up against someone that's only playing once a week, he's probably quite good. He gets to this point, he plateaus, but there's always more to achieve. There's always more to go. And if you have a growth mindset, which again is part of psychological safety, part of your culture, your product culture, if you have those growth mindsets in your individuals, which is who we should be hiring anyway, then your org will also have a growth mindset, continuous learning, continuous improvement mindset. The challenge with your example there is the people around us also need to be of that kind of mold, and which is why it's so important when you're hiring leaders or even like functions that you have to partner with as well.
Thank you. Question?
I had a quick question. Hello. This product operating model, it's not new. And many of us in the ProductLab community have sat in a session last year with Marty Kagan.
Mhm.
He discussed his
I've
new
heard of
book,
him actually.
which
Yeah.
is maybe. And his latest book is all about product operating model.
Yep.
I just was curious. It's not a criticism. It's just rather, this is another take on it.
Yep.
I haven't read either book. I can't claim from the outside that I have made any significant comparison. I just was wondering if you had like a high level overview of like maybe what's different or and a better or maybe a different take on your version versus Silicon Valley Group.
You won't have read mine yet. It's not ready yet. But you can sign up. So there's actually, oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. There's actually 2 books out at the moment, and Marty Kagan's was not the first. So Transformed is, I mean, you kind of outlined it there. It's very high level. It is a book of how to convince leadership to do this kind of work, right? My book starts from the assumption that they're already kind of there, and this is how you now make it actionable. The reason I said there was a lot of encouragement of how to do this is actually referencing that book, because it is encouragement and it's fantastic. It shows a great view of how to be a product organization and why it's important, but it doesn't tell you how to do it that's contextual to you. So this version will. This book will. The other book is called Project to Product. So it kind of explains on the title what it's for, by a guy called Mick Kirsten. That was from 2018. So no, it's not new, but that's where it mostly kind of started, or those concepts are starting to come through. In that book, he talks a lot about value stream networks, flow metrics, and quite technical things, and particularly how you partner with engineering and influence engineering and engineering leadership, IT leadership, essentially, to shift their ways of thinking. Again, going back to some of the answers before, so that you can use a funding model that allows teams to build and run. Things like continuous integration, continuous deployment, test-driven development, pair programming. Like some of these really good engineering practices that we don't see a lot, allow you to experiment very, very quickly, which is fantastic, unless you're in a project model where you're only experimenting for the purpose of output rather than the purpose of learning. So those two books, and they are good, but one's very high-level leadership, one's quite technical and engineering. This is somewhere in the middle where we're saying, your organization, we have the assumption that they've kind of said, yes, this is the right way to do it. We understand that. Can you go and make it happen? This will show you how to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Before we give you a gift from ProductLab,
Oh,
I have a question to you. What is the best incentive you have seen
the best incentives I've
to
seen.
make this happen?
Yeah, so actually I couldn't get to that the example there because again I was moaning about hiking. The incentives. So when I was at Bumble, we wanted to improve the organization's principle of being data informed, or capability, sorry, of being data informed. They were pretty strong already, but we wanted to be like market leaders in being informed by data. I mean, dating, Bumble, the dating product. Dating is a social thing, right? And we have to understand how our users are using it so it can be more data informed. And we've been given the budget and the time by leadership, the space, the people we definitely had. But there was very little incentive until we tied. So we did all three. So we showcased what growth looked like for them by partnering different people around the organization, in some cases, very senior leaders, including the founder. There's great growth opportunities there. We allowed them recognition by putting them on stage at the all hands in front of the whole company to talk about how we were improving things. It was pretty good recognition. And we tied it to rewards because we tied org evolution to product leads, end of year goals and OKRs. So at the end of the year, they can go, not just I'm a great product lead and we delivered products, we changed the organization, this is how I did it. And it's a pretty compelling argument to go to your VP, your CPO, and say, I've changed this organization, I've improved things here. Why shouldn't I get the next role increase or the change in salary or bonus? It's a pretty compelling argument. So those are the things that I did there.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. And this is from ProductLab.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's transformed.
Yes.
Thank you.